Writ of Execution. Court-ordered sale of real property to satisfy a judgment. A writ of execution is the decision of a judge or court put in writing. It is used regularly in real estate when a court orders the sale of a property to satisfy a judgment, which is usually based on default. As an example, a borrower defaults on a loan with the property used as security for the loan. The court orders the borrower through a writ of execution to sell the home and pay back the loan. The writ of execution is a written court order to sell the property to pay the court judgment. Express agreement. Written or spoken agreement. Express means written or spoken. The opposite of express is implied. Implied means made clear by actions, conduct, or behavior. An example of an implied agreement or conduct is going into a restaurant, sitting down, ordering, and eating. These actions imply that the bill is going to be paid. Sit-down restaurants do not require us to pay up front. Eating at a sit-down restaurant is an example of an implied contract. An express contract or agreement is one that is spelled out in writing or in speech. Synonyms: express contract. Antonyms: implied agreement, implied contract. Perpetual estate. Estate which does not depend on a person's life. An estate is the ownership interest or claim that a person has in real property. The two types of estates are freehold estates and less than freehold estates. A less than freehold estate is the estate held by a tenant who leases (rents) a property, also known as a leasehold estate. There are two types of freehold estates: estates in fee and life estates. Life estates are dependent on the length of the life of a specific person. Estates in fee include fee simple absolute and fee simple qualified. Fee simple absolute is the most complete form of estate or complete form of ownership or complete form or interest or claim a person can have in real property. A fee simple absolute estate is a perpetual estate because it does not end at an owner's death, but can be transferred to heirs or by will. Synonyms: estate of inheritance. Related words: estate, freehold estate, fee simple estate, fee simple absolute. Convey. To transfer ownership or title. To convey a property is to transfer the property from one person or entity to another person or entity. One person selling a property to another is said to be, quote, conveying the property, end quote. To convey is the verb form. Conveyance is the noun form. A deed is a conveyance. Remember that title to a property is merely a piece of paper which states who owns a property and is normally filed with the county clerk. A property can be conveyed by simply changing the name on the title from one person or entity (a company in the form of a corporation, for example, and parentheses) to the name of another person or entity. An escrow company can help do this. A deed is a piece of paper which can place restrictions on conveyance. A trust deed, for example, says that while a title has been changed from one person to another, the new person owes the lender a certain amount of money which is secured by the property. The property has been conveyed from one person to another and is shown on the title. But the deed restricts the transfer until the money borrowed is repaid. To convey is to transfer ownership of a property from one person or entity to another. Synonyms: transfer, alienate. Related words: title, estate, deed. Market value. Highest price a ready, willing, and able buyer will pay. Market value is the highest price a ready, willing, and able buyer will pay. The reason we have to say, quote, ready, willing, and able, end quote, buyer is that there are many buyers who are currently not ready to buy. The price such a buyer might pay would be lower than if he or she was ready to buy. Willing means that a buyer might have money, but not be willing to spend it. Again, the price this buyer will pay will be lower than market value. Able means the potential buyer might not actually have the money at the moment to buy. Again, this buyer will pay a much lower price than one who has the money. So the market value is the highest price that a ready, willing, and able buyer will pay. Synonyms: fair market value. Potentially amortized loan. Loan not fully paid by the end of the loan term. If a partially amortized loan term is 10 years, for example, and the 10 years end and all payments were made on time, there would still be a balance due on the loan, often due in a balloon payment. Why would anyone want a partially amortized loan? Because for some reason they need the lowest payment possible. Short-term loans like construction loans might be partially amortized loans because their purpose is to bridge a time period before permanent financing can be established. A partially amortized loan is one which is not fully paid at the completion of its term. Antonyms: fully amortized loan. Related words: balloon payment, bridge loan. Estate at sufferance. Leased property in which the tenant stops paying rent. A leasehold estate, or a less than freehold estate, is a property that is being rented by a tenant. If the tenant stops paying rent, then the estate changes into an estate at suffrage, or an estate at suffrage. Grandfather clause. Change that goes into effect after a set date. When a law or rule is changed, it is the grandfather clause which allows those that have been under the old law or rule to remain so, and only those who are new to have to abide by the law or rule. Over time, those who were grandfathered eventually become a very small number and eventually disappear. The grandfather clause is a good way to implement changes in a less painful manner. A grandfather clause will have a date at which the new law or rule goes into effect. Everyone after that date must follow the new law. Everyone prior is under the old law. A grandfather clause is a change that goes into effect after a set date. Finance terms: loan details, interest rate, loan amount, loan length. Finance terms are the details of a loan. Basically, the details of a loan most often include the loan amount, the length of the loan, parentheses called the term, end parentheses, and the interest rate. But many other options may be part of the finance terms depending on the complication of the financing. Other options include possible balloon payments with associated time periods, parentheses, or terms, end parentheses, interest rates that are fixed or variable, and interest rates that are effective, or APR, which is the annualized percentage rate, parentheses. APR adds the cost of the loan to the interest rate to produce a more accurate interest rate, end parentheses. Finance terms are the loan details, most basically the interest rate, the loan amount, and the loan length. Related words: principal, interest, terms. Escrow agent, neutral third-party facilitator of real estate transactions. Escrow is a short-lived trust agreement. Escrow is a short period of time, often 30 to 45 days, when an unbiased third party administers the details of a real estate transaction. The escrow officer, also called escrow agent or escrow holder, follows the escrow instructions, which are part of the purchase offer/purchase agreement. Some states do not use escrow, but prefer a face-to-face closing where all parties sit at the table and finalize the transaction. Escrow, on the other hand, allows sellers and buyers to work separately with the escrow agent. The escrow agent can make no changes to the escrow instructions unless mutually agreed to in writing by both seller and buyer. The reason escrow helps is that an unbiased third party is helpful to justify and accurately facilitate the details of today's complicated real estate transactions. The escrow agent is also called the escrow holder. Synonyms: escrow holder, escrow officer.